So this is how it looks on the inside with the big plastic wall, plenty of floor space to move stuff around. And as you can imagine, since this is the first time I do something, a lamination job this big, there's a lot of thinking going on. You only have one go at this, so you don't want to make any mistakes. So here you have our vacuum pump setup that we're going to use tomorrow when we're laminating the keel area for the vacuum bagging process. So we have the pump, a long hose, and a catch pot with the meter. Maybe that's not really necessary for vacuum bagging, but I have one, so why not use it? And then we have the connector that connects to the bag of the plastic sheet that we're going to apply on top of the laminate. We also have a telltale, you say it like a telltale propeller, so that you can see if you have a leak when you turn the pump off and you close this valve. If this moves, you know that you have a leak somewhere at the bag or at the perimeter probably. So that's a good way to see that, because small leaks you won't see really on the meter. You will see it faster on this one. I have a pretty long hose, as you can see, and that's just because we don't want to have the actual pump standing inside here where we have the hull, because there's a slight chance or risk that we can contaminate the hull with the oil mist coming from the pump here. So we'll keep this pump at the stable instead, and that's why we have the long hose. There will of course be some losses from that, but there's plenty of enough of vacuum even with that long hose, so any losses it's still okay. It's pretty cool how much pressure you can apply with vacuum like this. This system here draws negative 0.9 bars of vacuum. I think that's equivalent to 27 inches of mercury, so pretty close to 1 atmosphere. And that's equivalent to being a pressure of somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000 kilos per square meter. So that's a lot of pressure on a surface this big, around 9 to 10 tons. And that's of course the reason why vacuum bagging is so good. It really puts a pressure on the laminate to compact everything, to press everything together. So you take away any voids or possible air. It's not always you get everything out, but it really compacts everything. So we've been getting a lot of questions on how we're going to protect ourselves from the strong vapors from the epoxy. But the thing is that this epoxy is solvent free, so there's no solvents or anything that evaporates from the laminate. So it's almost odor free. There are, however, vapors coming off the epoxy once you have the hardener when it's mixed, from this exothermic reaction in the epoxy. And those vapors can give you an allergic reaction, especially over time if you use epoxy a lot and you don't protect yourself. So we are going to use mask with a filter for organic vapors always when we're laminating. Because like I said, allergy from epoxy is something that builds up over time. So even if you don't get epoxy allergy tomorrow when we're laminating, down the road, every time we expose ourselves for epoxy, the chances or the likelihood of getting allergy later on builds up. So we're almost ready to start working today. Malin will be out here in a while and we'll start laminating the keel recess.
Okay, here we are. We're excited and nervous. It just has to be right. Things cannot go wrong, but I'm actually expecting that it's going to be so difficult and problematic, so everything that gets better than that will feel good. And it's warm in here. We had to take off our shirts. We shut off the diesel heater and we're only using one of the electric fans. And I think it's close to 20 degrees, I'd say. It's quite warm outside. It's 10 to 11 degrees Celsius. So it was easier to heat up today. And this whole week looks like it's going to be quite moderate temperatures. So we're really happy about that. Okay, we're gonna film just doing a time lapse with the GoPro so we can have, you know, hands-free and just focus on this. And wish us luck.
We set the timer and Johan begins mixing the first epoxy. The reason why we were quite apprehensive is because if the lamination would go wrong, it would be a total disaster, meaning a massive amount of work to remove the faulty laminate, and we would have to redo the whole keel recess. First we apply epoxy onto the hull, and it's not like painting, you need much more epoxy here to be able to saturate the fiberglass. It was especially important to get the cloth fully saturated and well pressed down into the bottom edge, and to make sure that there were no air gaps. We continued like this over the whole recess, while Johan went down to mix more epoxy every now and then. When we had laid out the first layer of fiberglass, we started with layer number 2. The epoxy curing process starts immediately after it's been mixed, so we were really working against the clock and couldn't take any breaks until we were finished. In addition to the mohair rollers, we use aluminium washer rollers and Bristol rollers to remove air bubbles and to help saturate the fiberglass. Next up is to lay out the fabric called peel ply, and we used one made out of nylon. The epoxy won't stick to the peel ply, which means that when we pull it off, it will take a thin layer of epoxy with it, leaving an uncontaminated and rough surface without amino blush. Here it was also really important to get the peel ply all the way down into the bottom edge, and that it got a full grip to the fiberglass. The blue plastic is full of tiny holes, which will let any excessive epoxy through when the vacuum is turned on. Then comes a breather cloth, which will suck up the excessive epoxy and make it easier for the vacuum to remove air from all areas of the laminate. Before the vacuum plastic comes on, we apply a butyl sealant tape. The vacuum plastic shouldn't be placed out too tight, because there needs to be enough material for the air to reach into the recess without creating any air gaps. When the plastic is sealed to the hull, we insert the vacuum vents. We start the vacuum pump and the air begins to be drawn out. We help the vacuum plastic to reach into the corners of the recess and press the tape to ensure that there are no leaks.
It is now 12:30 and we are finished. We're gonna go in and have lunch now, and we're so tired. But I mean, overall it went well.
Yeah, I think so.
But it was quite a little bit, stressful, because
It took
we clocked
2 hours and 20 minutes to get the fiberglass saturated, the 2 layers. So in total 3 hours and 9 minutes until we're finished with the vacuum bag and everything. So I think that's okay. We got
So in the beginning what we did wrong was to not pour out like the epoxy on the surfaces faster.
Yeah.
We kept it too long in the trays.
Yeah.
So we had to change.
Yeah, one of the trays we had to throw away since epoxy went off too fast. It was the first one where we had the heat mats on, and that wasn't really necessary to have that. So that's a lesson learned.
And also we realized when like the epoxy was on the surface and the fiberglass, we had more time to work with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that stressful.
No, just get it out there as fast as possible.
Yeah, but it made it harder to walk around up there, and that's the hardest. That's why we're so tired.
Yeah.
Crawling, the knees, back.
Yeah, and pretty, not very.
Yeah, for me that's okay. The height.
For me, it's a bit
you have to bend.
against the ceiling.
But then I didn't have good shoes because I felt like they were slippery. So like when we're going forward on the bow, after we put on the layers, there wasn't almost enough surface to walk on.
For the next time we're going to use the platform on the side.
Yeah, because the last 3 layers are only going to go bigger and bigger and bigger. These were the 2 smallest ones.
Yes.
And yeah, the vacuum pump is now working.
Yeah, we managed to seal the bag pretty good. We have a bit over 20 inches of mercury, I think you call it, of vacuum at the moment, and it's still going down, so I think it's okay.
So that will now stay like this overnight until tomorrow, and we will check it every now and then to see that it keeps on holding the this pressure.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow we will remove everything and rip these 4 extra layers off.
Is it 4?
No, 3.
Yeah,
no,
3.
yeah, 4 with the peel ply.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So today we used a slow hardener. At the moment we have 16 degrees in here. It's pretty warm outside today, around 10. I think Malin said that before. So we're running 1 electric heater at the moment at half speed, and we can maintain 16 to 17 degrees with only that. That's 4.5 kilowatts. So I think we'll leave it like that for a few more hours to let the vacuum really press down, and then once the epoxy has really started to gel, we take the temperature up to maybe a bit over 20 and keep it there overnight. Yeah, that's how I think right now.
Yeah.
So time for lunch. I'm really hungry.
Good job.
Yes. Same to you.
We're tired.
Yes.
What a day. We crashed in the bed that evening.
The big moment is here. It's the day after, and we are about to remove the layers and see how the fiberglass turned out. Oh, and I have knee pads. Finally, we're so sore in our legs and backs today.
Yeah.
And tomorrow it's time again. The 3 last layers.
The white dots you see is excessive epoxy that has been sucked through the blue plastic sheet. Then the sealant tape comes off. And lastly, the peel ply.
The peel ply is off, and I think it turned out really good. We got the fiberglass well into the corners all the way around, which was the thing that we were most worried about before we started, that the fiberglass would conform to the shape or get well into the corners in the recess. But the vacuum bagging certainly helped with that, so that's really nice. So today will be another prep day to get vacuum bagging material and everything cut up for the next session that we'll hopefully do tomorrow. Next round will be a bit more stressful because we'll try to get 3 layers on. This was only 2. But we learned a lot from this, so hopefully those lessons will make it less stressful tomorrow. I will also prep the surface here. I will sand the perimeter around here just lightly because there's some epoxy that spills and stuff on the outside here. And I will probably also give it a light sand here on the fiberglass, even if we used peel ply, just to be sure that we have a good surface for the next layer to key into. Yeah, as you can see, there are some air bubbles beneath the fiberglass here inside the recess, but that's okay because that's next to the tape. And that means that the layer beneath here hasn't connected to the epoxy, which is the purpose of it, because it's just temporary until we have turned the hull, and then we will remove this layer and build up more fiberglass from the other side. Today it's time for round number 2 of the Keel laminate or lamination, and as you can see, I have poured all the epoxy that we're going to need for today's work. We have decided that we're not going to do 3 layers today. I think it will be too much for us to fully saturate 3 layers in time and getting the vacuum bagging material on there before it's a bit too late. So we decided it will be 2 layers today, same as last time.
It didn't feel stressful this time, and everything went easier now when we had some experience. The second layer was much more messy, since the surface already had epoxy on it.
Oh, I'm so sweaty. Ooh, we need more epoxy here on my side.
We used another type of peel ply this time. This one is made out of polyester and is 25% cheaper than the other one, but it was so much harder to lay out. The cloth was a lot less stretchy and we had to redo it several times because we couldn't get enough of the cloth into the edges of the recess. It took us about the same time as the first round to finish laying out the fiberglass and peel ply, which was 2 hours and 20 minutes. After a bit over 3 hours, all the layers were out, and we connected the vacuum hoses and started the pump. We were so exhausted after crawling around like crabs and working non-stop for so many hours, but very happy to have this done. The next morning, Johan removed the materials to see how the second lamination turned out.
The keel area is now finished for now. I'm really happy with the result, and like I said, we learned a lot from this, and we will benefit from that now going forward in the project, especially when we're laminating the hull, and we will have other people here helping us that maybe haven't done anything like this before. So it's nice now that we have gained some experience by this, and we will try to do a piece on the hull, just me and Malin, before we have people coming in, so we really know what the challenges will be with that. So the next phase now is to get rid of the excess epoxy that we have dripped on the sides here, and this fabric that's been stuck into the hull. So we'll give it a sand just around the keel recess here to get rid of that. And then it's time to coat the rest of the hull with the primer layer of epoxy before we can start the lamination of the rest of the hull. So this was it for this week, and we hope you enjoy this video. I know was a lot of laminating in this video, and I guess that's something that you will see a lot in the coming episodes. Hopefully it will be a bit easier to film when we're more people later on, when we're laminating the hull. When we did this, me and Malin was a bit too stressed to really get the camera, since you were soaked with epoxy and everything, so it was easier to just do the whole thing with the time lapse. So I hope you guys were okay with that. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and a big thank you to all of our patrons. And if you're interested in supporting our project and our videos, head on over to our Patreon page. There's a link in the comment section down below. See you next week. Bye bye.